What's up, everybody? Welcome to the latest edition of the Stephen A. Smith Show, coming at you as I love to do, at the very least 3 days a week over the digital airwaves of YouTube. As you can see, I'm not in my normal studios. I'm on the road. I got a lot of stuff doing, covering the NBA playoffs, soon to be NBA Finals. Nevertheless, I always want to take a moment to pay homage to my subscribers and followers. We've now eclipsed over 682,000. So I just want to say I really appreciate it. Keep the love coming. I'm going to always keep mine coming. Just make sure if you want to continue to like and follow the Stephen A. Smith Show, click the bell in the right-hand corner, and you too shall be the latest member of the Stephen A. Smith Show family. A lot of stuff to get into today, so let me not waste any time. I'm going to get into Jaylen Brown. I'm going to get into Draymond Green. I'm going to get into Kenny Smith. I'm going to get, hell, I might have to get into P. Diddy with the kind of stuff that I see going all over the place in the news, the way they're talking about him right now. And, of course, I'm going to get into the Negro Leagues and what I mentioned, because there's a lot to talk about as it pertains to that. But the first order of business was last night, because last night, Minnesota Timberwolves forced a Game 6. It was a win-or-go-home moment for the T-Wolves, and they didn't blink, y'all. Karl-Anthony Towns found his three-point stroke, hitting 4-5, and the Timberwolves avoided the sweep against the Mavericks with a 105-100 win in Game 4. Towns had his best game of the series, 25 points, 9 of 13 shooting, 4-5 from three-point range, okay? Edwards missed a triple-double by one assist as his tone setter for Minnesota, who now forces a Game 5. Let me say this. It was an aberration. I'm not talking about the win. I'm talking about the way Luka Doncic and Kyrie Irving performed. Kyrie Irving shot 6 of 18 from the field, hit a third of his shots. Luka shot 7 of 21 from the field, hit a third of his shots. How long do you think that's going to happen? How many times do you think that's going to happen? I don't see that happening quite often. Let me just be real about that. I just don't see that happening a lot. I think we need to be mindful and careful of that. I don't see that happening too damn often. That's number one. Number two, Karl-Anthony Towns. He was shooting horrifically from three-point range coming into this game, and he finally showed up, deserved a lot of credit. Here's what I like. If you're Minnesota, what I love about last night is Anthony Edwards shot 11 of 25 from the field, finished with like 29 points, 10 assists, 10 rebounds, 9 assists, 2 of 5 from three-point range. Again, 11 of 25 from the field. Anthony Towns, 9 of 13 from the field. Nobody else shot double-digit attempts. And that's what I think is something to be mindful of. With the exception of maybe Naz Reid, you really don't want anybody shooting the damn ball too much other than Anthony Edwards and Karl-Anthony Towns. But in order for that to happen, Karl-Anthony Towns has got to step up and be productive and efficient, not just aggressive, but productive and efficient in order for that to happen. Anthony Edwards is that dude. The brother's only 22 years of age. Like he said after the game, he had never been swept before, and he damn sure wasn't trying to let that happen now. Give the Minnesota Timberwolves a lot of credit for the pride. Let's also remember something here as we think about how the record for teams that have been up 3-0 in an NBA series in playoff history is 155-0. No one has ever lost a 3-0 lead in NBA playoff history, but that does not mean that it cannot happen. Boston almost did it last year, and one could easily argue if Jason Tatum hadn't gotten hurt in the first 8 seconds of the game, damn it, then guess what? Boston, who had come back from an 0-3 deficit to tie at 3-3, might have pulled it off against Miami last year. We don't know. That would have been a better matchup than the Denver Nuggets going up against Miami, I can tell you that much, but that's neither here nor there. In the end, the Boston Celtics are back in the finals. Jason Tatum is healthy enough. Jaylen Brown is healthy enough. And the bottom line is the Boston Celtics are here. What I'm saying to you is this. When you look at Minnesota and you see what Karl-Anthony Towns, what they look like when Karl-Anthony Towns is balling, it's something that we can't ignore. I'm just looking at some numbers here that I think y'all got a right to see. When you think about Karl-Anthony Towns and what he brings to the table, they've had 9 wins in the playoffs. They beat Phoenix, swept them in the first round. They took 7 games to beat Denver, okay, after being up 2-0 on the road, almost blowing the series, but they still won it. And then they finally won a game after being down 0-3 to Dallas. That's 9 wins. Karl-Anthony Towns has averaged 20.2 points a game. 57% shooting from the field, 46% shooting from three-point range. But in the 6 losses, the 3 to Denver and the 3 over games 1-3 against Dallas, those numbers dipped to 15.8 points, 35% shooting, 28% from three-point range. Karl-Anthony Towns is the key. Anthony Edwards needs help. And if Anthony Edwards gets help, you gotta believe Minnesota's got a chance. Remember, all 4 games have come down to clutch time. All 4 games have been decided by a combined 8 points. We can't dismiss that. We can't. So I'm looking at Minnesota right now, and I'm saying I don't like blowouts, y'all. So I want Minnesota. It's not just that I picked them because I picked them to win the series in 7 games, but I ain't mad at Kyrie Irving and Luka Doncic ended up in the NBA Finals versus Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum. Let me tell you that right now. But I do want the series to go long. And if Minnesota wins Game 5, then that makes Game 6 very pivotal. Because Game 6 in Dallas, if you are Minnesota and you going up in there with a 1-game mentality, we just win this game, and boom, we force a Game 7 back in Minnesota. You know how desperate and chaotic and hectic that Game 6 in Dallas is going to be? My advice to the Dallas Mavericks and their fans everywhere: make sure no Dallas Cowboys are in the building. Make sure no Dallas Cowboys are in the building. It's going to bring you nothing but bad luck. Nothing but bad luck. I'm telling you that right now. Dallas Cowboys show up sitting courtside, flexing and flaunting and all of that stuff like they champions. It's going to contaminate the proceedings. It's going to get in the way. And as a result, the Dallas Mavericks are going to lose that game too. If they lose, assuming they lose Game 5, because they could easily win Game 5 in Minnesota because they those dudes when they want to be. I'm just saying, take my advice. Stay with me. Be cool about this. I know what I'm talking about. I really, really do. Outside of that, Karl Anthony Towns, continue to play the way you played. And don't foul out. And don't pick up a stupid foul or foul out at the end of the game. Fouling Luka beyond the three-point line. That just doesn't make any sense. Don't do that. All right? But props to Minnesota for showing up. By the way, they're 3-0 in elimination games in this postseason. 3-0. Twice against Denver and then last night. They were on the brink of elimination and staved it off. I got to give credit where credit is due to those fellas. I really, really do. Let me get on to a different subject now because it's time to talk a little bit about Bronny James, the son of LeBron James, of course. According to his agent, Rich Paul, Bronny will remain in the June draft and officially forego his remaining college eligibility. Bronny entered the draft combine earlier this month. He was ranked 98th in ESPN's top 100 prospects. But after a strong showing at the combine and drills and scrimmages, according to scouts, evaluators, et cetera, Bronny climbed 44 spots to the 54th ranking. Now, several teams have reportedly reached out to James for workouts. So far, he's declined all of them except for his dad's Los Angeles Lakers and the Phoenix Suns. Let me try to keep my composure here and be cool about this. First of all, I'm wishing Bronny James nothing but the best. By all accounts, he's a very, very nice kid. Exceptionally well raised by both Savannah and LeBron, his parents. Wonderful family. Kid, they've got a wonderful family. LeBron James deserves a lot of props to that. And there is no crime in looking out for his son. But this is a time where I say, and I've said on television, and you're going to see other people saying it, but if it walks like a duck and quacks like a duck, it ain't a damn mongoose. What the hell do you think we're thinking? Here comes LeBron James now. Okay, you go to the combine, right? And you're ranked 98th. And because of your performance, you're conveniently upgraded to the 54th best prospect as opposed to the 98th. Why do I bring up that? Why is the magic number 54? Guess who has the 55th pick in the second round of the NBA draft? It's the Los Angeles Lakers. You can't make this up. You can't make this up. I mean, damn. You know, because, ladies and gentlemen, I don't know if you noticed or not, I'm not allowed to say 2 + 2 = 4. I'm just not allowed. I mean, I don't know if you noticed, that's selling out. That's selling out. That there's something wrong with me for pointing that out. Of all the spots you could have fallen to, you could have fallen to 64th. You could have fell to 44th. You could have fell to 70th. You could have fell to 60th. But conveniently, you fall to 54 when the Lakers got the 55th pick. Really? Really? I mean, LeBron James, in case you don't know, and I'm not saying that you're guilty of this coincidence. I don't know. Don't care, really. As long as your son is healthy and thriving and living his best life, I'm happy for the LeBron James family. But what I'm saying is, damn. I mean, what's it going to look like you did next? Literally walked into a .com site or a newspaper site or to a television studio and wrote the damn script for everybody? 44 slots. 44 slots to 54th from 98th when the Lakers got the 55th pick. I mean, I know people like to spit in our face and tell us it's raining. But do you have to be so obvious? Really? Really stop it. That's one thing I want to say about that. Here's the other thing. And this involves J.J. Redick, the soon-to-be new head coach for the Los Angeles Lakers, barring something catastrophic. Ladies and gentlemen, he's the leading candidate for the Lakers job. And I got a call from some people over the weekend. LeBron James had nothing to do with this. Stephen A., he has nothing to do with this. He doesn't get involved. He doesn't want anything to do with who the next coach is going to be. He doesn't talk to them about it. He doesn't want to be credited with that decision, blah, 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 blah. Well, okay. Do y'all understand? Because this is what I said to some of the people that called me on behalf of LeBron James. I said, do you understand that the superstar that he is, the iconic brand that he is, the individual that Jeannie Buss looked me dead in the face and say, all I care about is LeBron James' happiness? That is my priority. That Jeannie Buss, the board of governors, part owner for the Los Angeles Lakers, that Jeannie Buss. Do y'all understand that when a coach gets fired from the Los Angeles Lakers, inevitably LeBron James has something to do with that? So if you want to sit up there and say he has nothing to do with the potential new hiring of a head coach like J.J. Redick, are you going to deny that he had anything to do with the firing of Darvin Ham? You think that if LeBron James stood up and said, Darvin Ham is my guy, I completely support him, that Jeannie Buss and Rob Pelinka let go of Darvin Ham, you really think that would happen? By the way, when has LeBron James spoken up for a coach? I don't recall. But that's neither here nor there. Back to J.J. Redick. J.J. Redick's taking a lot of heat. He doesn't deserve it. Doc Rivers coached without any coaching experience. Mark Jackson coached without any coaching experience. Steve Nash coached without any coaching experience. There's been several coaches throughout NBA history that went from the booth or, courtside doing color commentary into the position of being a head coach in the National Basketball Association. J.J. Redick is clearly a brilliant basketball mind. And do I think that he's somebody that's worthy of a shot? Yes, I do. Do I also think there's going to be cynicism on the part of those in the locker room that J.J. Redick is talking to, assuming that a directive is coming from LeBron James as opposed to J.J. Redick? I do think that's possible, yes. But I don't think that's a reason not to give him the job. I think J.J.'s personality is strong enough to get through to the right people at the right time as a head coach. Here's what J.J. Redick can't help. That LeBron James decided to do a podcast with him, knowing that Darvin Ham was on the hot seat. Now, I know everybody wants to come at me and they want to say, look, man, that brilliant dude known as Maverick Carter came to LeBron James with this great idea for a podcast. Respectfully, I don't want to hear that shit. I don't want to hear it. I'm not saying it isn't true. I'm saying I don't want to hear it. And the reason why I don't want to hear it is because LeBron ain't some step and fetch it kind of dude. As many ideas as Maverick Carter comes to him with and as many things that he's willing to listen to because Maverick Carter is that brilliant, that does not mean that LeBron James doesn't have a mind of his own. Maverick Carter works for LeBron James. It ain't the other way around. And don't tell me that LeBron is some innocent Abe sitting on the sidelines just doing Maverick Carter's bidding. LeBron signed off on it. What the hell you doing signing off on doing a podcast with a coach, knowing your coach is on a hot seat, coaching the Lakers of all teams? Oh, by the way, he's ultimately let go, rather, from the job, and the person you elected to do the podcast with is now the leading candidate for the head coaching job. But LeBron has nothing to do with that. I mean, I know I use the analogy, spitting in my face and telling me it's raining. But there's also a difference between passing gas and taking a dunk. All you got to do is look in the toilet. We look in the toilet, we see shit. You going to tell us it's gas? Or you going to tell it what it is? I'm sorry to use that graphic analogy, but sometimes it's necessary when you see people coming to you and saying this kind of BS. It's ridiculous. At the end of the day, at some point in time, you just wish LeBron James would own it. Yo, man, this is what I want as my next head coach. That's what I want. But to act like he has nothing to do with it, nothing, all I'm going to say is this. Maybe it is true he has nothing to do with it. But I've never known LeBron James to be able to pretend innocence when his fingerprints are all over something. When it's that damn obvious. Now, whether you speak on it or not, you got something to do with it. You got something to do with it. So just stop wasting our time with those kind of lies. Okay? Let me move on to this last subject before I go to break, because it involves Kenny Smith and Kyrie Irving. Kenny the Jet Smith for TNT, the great Kyrie Irving for the Dallas Mavericks, who may be on the verge of winning his second NBA championship, by the way, which is an incredible story within itself. But anyway, the topic that I'm about to get into is a bit personal. It involves Kenny, my brother, my boy. Kenny Smith and I go back decades. His brother, Vincent Smith, used to train me. Lost Battalion Hall, Queens, New York, all of that stuff. I got a scholarship, a basketball scholarship, because of Vincent Smith. Love him to death. But Kenny Smith and I go back that long. Last night, the TNT crew was discussing the evolution of Kyrie Irving this postseason. Because Kyrie Irving obviously has gone through so much, being accused of anti-Semitism or anti-Semitic remarks just because he retweeted something and stuff like that, getting suspended, having to deal with some of the things he's had to deal with, the whole COVID thing and, not wanting to play, not wanting to take the vaccine and all of this other stuff, ultimately missing an abundance of games. And, obviously things going south in Brooklyn with him, Kevin Durant and James Harden. You look at those situations and you just found yourself saying, damn, this is a bad situation. It's really bad. And Kyrie's name was all over it. And then he lost the sneaker deal and all he had was basketball. But the evolution of Kyrie Irving this postseason has been nothing short of spectacular, and he deserves a lot of credit for it. But that was also what led to Kenny Smith revealing a very private conversation that he had with me about my past critical comments of Kyrie. And I shouldn't say past because at the time we had the conversation, that's when it was going on, and that's when Kenny Smith called me. Here's what he had to say last night on TNT. We couldn't play the sound, but here's the quote. At one time, Stephen A. was an advocate about having a battle with Kyrie Irving. I had to call Stephen. I'm like, this guy's from my neighborhood. I named like 6 people, and I said, Stephen A., those people mentored you. They mentored him. So when you say something about him, you're actually saying it about us. And he said, I understood. Charles Barkley naturally followed up saying this about Kyrie Irving following Kenny's comments, quote, he self-inflicted himself. Talking about Kyrie. He got to take some responsibility. I think he's grown up. I think he's matured. Stephen A. and other people criticized him. He rightly deserved it. You can't go out there and be anti-Semitic. He deserved the criticism he got. He deserved the suspension he got. But as a basketball player, I think he's really grown up, end quote. Let me say this. Both of them are right. Tackling Charles Barkley first. Kyrie did deserve to be criticized at the time that he was being criticized. And it's our job to tell a story. And that's what I did. When it was happening, I spoke about what was happening. So Charles Barkley's right about that. But nobody's more right than my brother Kenny Smith. Kenny Smith did call me. And when Kenny Smith called me, he spoke to me and he reminded me of guys. He mentioned 6 guys. I'll give you 3 of their names. One was Rod Strickland, former NBA player, spectacular point guard out of DePaul University and stuff like that. Rod Strickland is the godfather of Kyrie Irving. Another person was Gary Howard, Gary D. Howard to be exact. former deputy sports editor at the Philadelphia Inquirer, who was responsible for getting me there. When I was a high school reporter for the New York Daily News, he was the one responsible for getting me the college job at the Philadelphia Inquirer. He's also the former executive sports editor for the Milwaukee Journal-Sentinel. At the time that Gary Howard was the executive sports editor there were 4 and ultimately reduced to 2 executive sports editors in the country, despite there existing hundreds of newspapers. Only about 2 were black. Gary Howard was one of them. He's a Bronx native. He's very, very close to Redick Irving, Kyrie's father. They grew up together, knows him well. Gary Howard is also a friend and a mentor of mine. The other dude was Reggie Howard that Kenny Smith was alluding to. Reggie Howard is Gary's brother. Coaches a lot of youth in the Bronx, very respected, street dude, very connected, the whole bit. And all of them talked to me. And they weren't disagreeing with what I was saying, but they were addressing the fervor with which I talked about Kyrie. And I really didn't see it that way. I felt like I had looked out for Kyrie Irving on many, many occasions until I couldn't. And then I felt that his attitude towards me had changed and it felt like betrayal. I let that go. But then when his father, I felt, came at me the wrong way, I reacted like I react. I ain't backing up. And it wasn't until Kenny Smith placed that call to me that I had to look at myself differently, because he reminded me of those numerous people that raised Kyrie. They also influenced me. And when I talked about Kyrie in the fashion that I talked about him, it wasn't just a reflection on him, it was a reflection on them. And when I looked at it that way, it gave me cause to pause. And then I remembered having an argument on First Take on ESPN with Jay Williams. And Jay Williams wasn't even attacking what I said. He was attacking the energy and how I said it. And I thought about that. And I said, damn, he's got a point. And then I ran into Kyrie. And we were at the Crypto.com arena. And Kyrie came up behind me, touched me on the back, and said, yo, bro, at this point, it ain't even about us. It's about you and my dad and the way y'all been going at each other. And y'all got me caught in the middle of it. And when he said that to me, it hit home. I picked up the phone, live from the Crypto.com arena, sitting baseline, and I texted his dad and asked his dad to meet with him. And his dad, being the class act that he is, agreed to meet with me in New York City a few weeks later. We met, we talked. Both of us apologized to each other for how we construed how one was coming at the other, et cetera, and we've been cool ever since. And when Kenny Smith brought that story up yesterday, it reminded me of the role that I play, the responsibility that I have, and I'm not one that usually gives a shit what anybody thinks. I stand on what I stand on. I feel the way that I feel because I pride myself in being man enough to acknowledge when I'm wrong if I think I'm wrong, because I think it's rare. But I was wrong. And for Kenny Smith to tell me that, it hit home in a big way, because we go back more than 30 years. And I can count on 2 fingers how many times he's thought I was wrong. And so his friendship, his brotherhood means a lot to me, but it also reminded me of the brotherhood of all of those that mentored and have been there for Kyrie. And it reminded me of somebody like my colleague at ESPN, Jay Williams. I love Jay, but we definitely don't see eye to eye on a few things, but damn it, when he's right, he's right. And he was right. I didn't think he was right at the time. But when you reflect sometimes and you see things for what they are, you got to man up and accept it. And that's what I wanted to do. And so I'm glad that Kenny Smith told that story. I'm glad that he said what he said because it was 1,000% accurate in the exact context that he said he spoke to me. He absolutely, he said it 100% on point. I've been pissed a lot lately for having my words misconstrued, for people using it for clickbait, just to interpret me saying something that I didn't say because I know what the hell their agenda is. But Kenny Smith didn't do that. And I really appreciate it. And I think that it's made me better because of it. I'm not going to be perfect, but if I think I'm right, I'm not backing up. And if I'm wrong, I will back up and I'll confess to it publicly. And I think the other thing that I wanted to speak about was Draymond Green. But I'll speak about that a little bit later on in the show, because the subject that's just as important to get to is Jaylen Brown. Now, I've made news over the last few days about Jaylen Brown, because getting back to the playoffs in the Eastern Conference where the Boston Celtics advanced to the NBA Finals after beating the Indiana Pacers, let's call it what it is. Jaylen Brown was sensational, and he was named Series MVP, taking home the Larry Bird Trophy, and he deserved it. However, Brown didn't think he was good enough to take home the award with teammate Jason Tatum, averaging 30 points and 10 rebounds. You know, wanted to share the wealth to some degree. Here's what I wanted to say about Jaylen Brown, because making news the other day, I talked about on First Take how somebody texted me and talked about how he's not very well liked. You know, and because he's not very well liked, that factors into his lack of marketability, the potential reason for him not making the All-NBA team, that kind of stuff. And so you got people that were in an uproar. I was taken aback because Isaiah Thomas, who's known me for 30 years, decides to go on X rather than call me to talk about defending the character of Jaylen Brown and Stephen A. Before you slander him, blah, 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 reveal your sources. I felt that was real out of pocket by Isaiah Thomas. Number one, because you know me. Number two, you know I'm not going to reveal my sources. Number three, you know I'm right, because I wasn't saying it about Jaylen Brown. I don't feel that way about Jaylen Brown. And I know a lot of people got love for him. I was saying there were others that say that about him, and it's contributed to a lack of marketability. And Isaiah went on to say he's very, very marketable in that same tweet on X that he never called me about. And obviously Jaylen Brown followed up, and he was talking about reveal your source, Stephen. No, I'm not going to do that. You know better. But for those who would doubt the veracity of my words, and see, this is not a Kyrie situation, because again, at some point with Kyrie and myself, it got personal, which is something that I openly confess to publicly. He knows why. You'll never know why, because I'll never tell. He knows why I got personal. But again, not absolving myself from that in any way. In the case of Jaylen Brown, that's not applicable here. There was nothing personal going on. There's been nothing personal going on. I've known Jaylen Brown for years, got nothing but love for him. But the facts are the facts. And I think it's something that's worth being noted, because you simply can't get around it. So why even try? We have to take that into consideration. What upset everybody was my quote, because we were asking the question as to whether or not he was underrated on First Take. And I got a text message in the middle of that segment where it said, he's not underrated. He's just not liked because of his, quote, I am better than you attitude, end quote. He knows it, same reason he's not marketable. And that's what had everybody in an uproar, pissed off at me reading that text. I cover the league. I saw some radio host or whatever going off talking about I'm not a reporter, and they compared me to a Rachel Maddow or whatever. I'm not insulted by what that pundit said, because theoretically speaking, he has a point and he's right. What he's missing is that when you sit in a chair like mine, when we're the #1 show for 12 years and counting, every week, every month, every year for 12 consecutive years, we're the standard. So literally sitting at my desk, I got people texting me with information every single segment of every single show. He left out that part, but I understand. That's not clickbait material, so why tell that truth? I get it. But here's the deal about Jaylen Brown, for me to validate my point. And one of the reasons I got upset is everybody's acting like I said an insulting word. I quoted somebody saying something, but I don't feel that way about Jaylen Brown. I voted Jaylen Brown on my All-NBA third team, just so everybody knows. Okay? I voted him on my All-NBA third team. So my words back up. You know, my vote backs up what my words said. But here's the point that nobody has asked. Let me read something to y'all. Damian Lillard and Giannis Antetokounmpo, Jokic and Murray, Steph and Clay, and Dre, by the way, Luka and Kyrie, Joel Embiid and Tyrese Maxey, Jalen Brunson, Julius Randle, LeBron James and Anthony Davis, Zion Williamson and C.J. McCollum, Jimmy Butler and Bam Adebayo. Ladies and gentlemen, those are teammates. Do you know that all of those dudes have shoe deals and some have signature shoes? Do you know that Jaylen Brown has neither? His contract ended with Adidas a while ago. He doesn't have another sneaker deal. You see that swoosh being covered on his sneaker? The Nike swoosh, you see that? Because he doesn't want to be seen with that. See, I'm giving you facts. Now, does he deserve a sneaker deal? Yes, he does. It doesn't strike y'all as a tad bit odd that the guy that signed for over $300 million, that's on the Boston Celtics, that is considered one of the best players in the NBA, doesn't have a sneaker deal when everybody and their mother seems to have a sneaker deal? That don't strike y'all as a tad bit odd? Isaiah, where's the marketability? Where's that? Where's the commercials? Where's the endorsement deals? The brother can play. He's been to 6 conference finals. He's now going to his second NBA finals appearance. He wears a Boston Celtics uniform. Where's the marketability? You would think he'd be more marketable. Jason Tatum certainly has commercials. Jason Tatum certainly has a sneaker deal. Jason Tatum certainly has all of these other things going for him. Where's it for Jaylen Brown? I'm not saying it's right. He deserves all of that. But what I will tell you is, to my understanding, he doesn't have a sneaker deal. And he's a really good guy. So where's the marketing? When people say you're not liked, they're not talking about you being disliked. They're talking about you not being someone that others want to market. That's the definition in business sometimes of marketability or a lack thereof. People speculate about this stuff for Jaylen Brown all the time. We don't know. All we know is that his talents and his character demand that he gets more than he's gotten. Why not? Those are questions for everybody else to answer. I don't know. All I know is the text that I received that was confirmed by 3 or 4 people. That's all I know. And by the way, saying somebody's not liked is not slander. I think Isaiah Thomas is a great man who's accomplished great things. I can assure you he's not liked by everybody. That's not slanderous. It really isn't. A lot of stuff to get into in our next segment. And I definitely will do that. There's so much to get into. Negro Leagues. That's next on my mind. We'll talk about that next, right here on the Stephen A. Smith Show of the Digital Airwaves with YouTube. Back with more in a minute. Okay, everybody, you know what time it is. It's time for Stephen A's Weekly Picks, all right? The NBA playoffs are in full swing, so it's a perfect time to tell you I've teamed up with Prize Picks to bring you my favorite sports picks for every big-time game. If you don't know already, because you should know, but if you don't know already, all right, Prize Picks is a skill-based, real-money daily fantasy sports app where you pick 2, 3, or even up to 6 players and select if they'll have more or less than their in-game predicted stats, all right? But it's not just basketball, y'all. We're talking about any and all of the sports you love to watch. You think I'm joking? Think again. There's the WNBA, MLB, the NHL, PGA. Damn it, there's even the MMA, all right? The list is endless. And if you go to prizepicks.com right now and use promo code SAS, you'll receive a 100% deposit bonus up to $100. $100, all right? You heard me. Right now, go to PrizePicks.com. Type in my initials, SAS, to get a first-time deposit match up to $100. Today, however, I'm not selecting a sport. Since we are coming off the Memorial Day holiday, you got me to thinking about being outside and cooking on the barbecue grill, you know what I mean? So I'm choosing more or less than what? 20 and a half hot dogs eaten during the year. 20.5 to be exact. That's what I said. Here's my thinking. If you had asked me this question a year ago, considering my habits, my lack of good health, my bad eating habits and all of that stuff, how many times I showed up at Madison Square Garden because I love their hot dogs with the sauerkraut and stuff like that. When I'm home, I like to bake. I like to toast the bun, put a little mayonnaise, a little ketchup, a little sauerkraut on it, the whole bit, you know what I'm saying? You had asked me that over a year ago, I might have given you a different answer than I'm about to give you. But a brother in shape these days, lost some weight, looking in shape, feeling good, you know? So I'm going to have to go with less on this one. Less than 20 and a half hot dogs, 20.5. Less! Because I'm about my health, about good health. You know what I'm saying? Welcome back to the Stephen A. Smith Show right here over the digital airwaves of YouTube. I want to get into a little baseball. Well, you don't have to be a fan to know that integrating the Negro League stats into the overall record books actually do matter. Well, it finally happened this week. Josh Gibson, one of the greatest sluggers in the history of the Negro Leagues, is now listed as Major League Baseball's new all-time career leader in batting average. His .372 career batting average moves him ahead of Ty Cobb, who had a .367 batting average. The MLB website also shows Gibson overtaking Babe Ruth in career slugging percentage. Joining me to discuss this historic moment is a Baseball Writers Association of America Hall of Fame voter and founder of the new website, MLBBro.com, a site that covers black and brown major leaguers. He was on the review committee for Negro League stats, and he's a co-host of The Odd Couple with my man Christopher Broussard on Fox Sports Radio. Ladies and gentlemen, you know him as my friend. You know him as a contemporary and a colleague. What you may not know is that we're so close over the last 30 years, I'm about to interview the godfather of my daughter, the one and only Rob Parker. What's going on, big time? How are you, man? How's everything?
Man, Steve, it is great to be on your show. Thanks for having me. And how's Nyla doing? Matter of fact, you know,
Nyla, she's a nightmare. She's a nightmare. That's what she is, Rob. I mean, she's a teenager.
She's not a nightmare.
You know, her and Samantha, teenagers, they're terrorists. That's what they are. They terrorize their father. They live to terrorize their father at every turn. I'm still trying to handle it, man. 2 teenage daughters, okay? I'm shocked that I'm still alive and walking upright. I ain't gonna lie to you.
Hey, it's a blessing. And every time I get a chance to see Nyla, you know, it means the world to me. She came to my party for the High School Hall of Fame. That was awesome. I loved seeing her. We took a great picture together, so it's so great.
Do you know she used you just a couple of weeks ago, Rob? She said that she wanted to go on vacation, and if I didn't let her go, she was going to call and tell you. Did you know that?
Uh-oh, see? Good. I'm glad. You better send her on vacation. Send her all over the world. I wanted to see everything.
So I'm getting blackmailed by my teenage daughter. But we have to move on. We'll talk about her another time because we talk about her now. You know I'm in love with her. You know she gets on practically anything she wants. You know she drives me crazy. But let's get to this baseball story because it's a big deal, Rob. You were on the stat review committee to get this historic moment done. Was there resistance from Major League Baseball? Can you tell us that?
No, there wasn't resistance. It was really about just authenticating the numbers, Steve, to go back through the accounts of the games, you know, which stats you could count, which ones you probably couldn't rely on to try to get an accurate number. I mean, this was a real testament by Major League Baseball to correct the wrong. This was never about a skills barrier, Steve. This is about a color barrier. We already know 3 of the greatest baseball players who ever played in the Negro League. When you talk about Hank Aaron and Willie Mays and Jackie Robinson, they all played in the Negro League. I mean, there's no doubt about the talent. Satchel Paige came and played in the major leagues when he was in his 50s and was still good. You know what I mean? So this was never about skill. This was just racism that stopped these guys from being able to compete and play in the major league.
Was it collective racism? Did you attribute this to that of former commissioner Kennesaw Landis, Mountain Landis? Was it somebody else? Is there an individual that stands out in your mind from an historical perspective, Rob? Because I know you're an historian on the sport of baseball. Is there a figure that stands out in your mind that was most responsible for negating the recognition of marvelous African Americans who played in the sport in the Negro Leagues, like the Satchel Pages of the world, like the Josh Gibson of the world, and others? Somebody stand out in your mind?
Well, I mean, when you talk about Mountain Landis, whose name has been removed off of trophies, and baseball has tried to clean up, it's past. It's an ugly past. We know it. It went on. It was the law of the land and how people reacted. And when I mean the law, people just accepted it and allowed it to happen without standing up and saying this is wrong. And we know that it changed baseball. We don't know what Babe Ruth would have done had he played against black or brown players during his day. You can't hold it against Babe Ruth because that was what he had to play against. But it would have been interesting to see these guys if they would have played during that era. And Steve, they used to barnstorm and play all-star games against the Babe Ruths and the Lou Gehrig's. And the Negro League players, they held their own. They won plenty of games. It wasn't like they got whitewashed or beat up 49-0, and couldn't compete. So it's a shame that we didn't get to see these guys compete during that time on the major league level. But I love what Major League Baseball is doing. Steve, you could have easily tried to clean this up. Hey, hand out some checks. There were only 3 alive, living former Negro Leaguers. You could have paid them off. Here's some money. Thanks, whatever, and move on. But baseball didn't do this. They muddied the water by doing this. And I'm sure there are plenty of fans who aren't happy with the idea that Josh Gibson now has the record for the greatest batting average in the major leagues, and it's not Ty Cobb. This is groundbreaking and earth-shattering.
And not just that, the 372 batting average you just alluded to for Josh Gibson, that's now in the record books, surpassing Ty Cobb's 367s. When Negro Leaguers records for more than 2,300 players were incorporated Tuesday after a 3-year research project. So let's point that out there. Gibson also became the career leader in slugging percentage at 718, on base plus slugging percentage at 1.177, moving ahead of Babe Ruth, by the way, in both categories. That alone should tell us what this ruling means, what this decision, rather, will mean for the history of the game. But to elaborate on it more extensively, what do you believe it will do for the history of the game?
I think it will give the Negro League players their rightful place and their honor for their talent and skill that was ignored and maybe acted as if it didn't happen. It happened. And these guys were really good, Hall of Fame caliber players. Not every single one of them, but there were a lot of great players who never got that opportunity that Hank Aaron and Jackie Robinson and Willie Mays got. And, those guys are some of the greatest players who ever played. So it's a shame, but I'm glad they're being recognized more within just a plaque or some statue somewhere. But these are numbers that for years, in the history of this country, that people will be able to look at and take a look at and say these guys were talented and they deserve their praise. I love what baseball's done here.
Refresh our memory, Rob Park. You used to write for the Cincinnati Enquirer. You wrote for New York Newsday. You wrote for the Detroit Free Press and the Detroit News. You had a local radio show in Detroit. You've been covering baseball for more than 3 decades. Obviously, you were a columnist in Cincinnati. You wrote a lot about the Reds. You were a columnist in Detroit. You wrote a lot about the Detroit Tigers. You were a columnist in New York. You wrote a lot about the Yankees and the Mets. And obviously, you have a Hall of Fame vote, and we don't have too many African Americans in that position. Speak about your experience covering Major League Baseball all of these years and what that was like for a black man to be doing it and why that makes a day like today so special in your eyes.
For me, Steve, it's 38 years. I've been covering Major League Baseball. My first World Series was the 1986 World Series when the ball went under Bill Buckner's legs. Can you imagine being a 22-year-old kid who grew up in Queens as a Mets fan, taking a number 7 train to Shea Stadium. And I'm in the ballpark for that game. I'm a a Daily News staff writer, 22, doing baseball sidebars at the World Series. So baseball is a part of my DNA. You know, I've covered the NBA and the NFL for a long time as well, but Major League Baseball is my lifeline, is my true love. And when I went to Cincinnati to cover the Cincinnati Reds in 1991, the Cincinnati Reds are the oldest franchise in the history of American sports. So that's a storied franchise. And I was the first Black reporter to cover the Reds on a regular basis. It was a big deal when they hired me. And it was, to me, one of the crowning moments of my career. I enjoyed every single minute of it. The people of Cincinnati, they love baseball. They love the way I covered it. I had to deal with Marge Schott. You remember the owner, Marge Schott, Steve?
Yes, you remember. We remember her with her racist tendencies. We remember that.
That, no doubt about it. She was forced to sell her team because of the issues that she had when it came to race and the stuff that she said. In fact, Steve, here's a great story about me in Cincinnati. So I wrote a column saying she was running the Reds like a mom and pop store. She didn't like the column, so she had me banned from eating in the press dining room, right? So the players found out that she banned me from eating. You know, when you cover baseball, you're there from 4 to midnight or 12:30. And
Right.
so Eric Davis was the star center fielder for the Reds. He found out that she banned me from the press dining room. So we're covering a game at Old Riverfront. There's a knock at the door in the press box. And a pizza delivery guy says, "Hey, is there Rob Parker here?" And I'm like, I'm sitting in the first row. I'm like, "Yeah, I'm here." He comes down, he delivers this pizza to me. And I'm like, "What is this?" He says, "Eric Davis called and had this delivered to you." Can you imagine, Steve, in this day and age,
Wow.
a player sending a pizza to a sports writer, making sure I had something to eat? And I'll always remember that. It spoke volumes of Eric Davis, where we were in reporter and player relationships. They respected the job that we did. But my time in Cincinnati, although it was brief, 2 years, was one of the highlights of my career. I enjoyed covering baseball every day.
One of the things that really bothered me about, and I said this morning on my day job on First Take on ESPN, I said, listen, I'm happy for the family of Josh Gibson and any of the Negro Leaguers out there because of their ancestry and how they're going to enjoy this moment of recognition and what have you. But I get so sick and tired of so many of us being acknowledged posthumously. It really rakes my nerves because I think that it highlights and speaks to the dereliction of morals, to be quite honest with you, exercised by some white individuals in position of power who collectively went about the business of trying to deny history and facts and the record books. And so I look at it sort of bittersweet, as Mad Dog Russo said on First Take this morning, better late than never. We understand that, but it still comes with a level of frustration. Am I wrong to feel that way, Rob?
Not at all. And I get it. It shouldn't always be after the fact or when people are gone and they don't have a chance to relish in those moments. And those things are very special. You know that. Got people going into the Baseball Hall of Fame. You want to see that. You want to feel that. You want to experience that. Those things are precious in life. And it's cool for the family, but for all those guys who have long gone, they don't get to see this. I'm sure this is amazing to Willie Mays, who's one of the three remaining Negro League players. He's 93 years old. On June 20th, Steve, I will be in Birmingham. In fact, my site, MLBBro.com, will be covering the event. The Cardinals and the Giants will be playing a major league game at the oldest stadium, Rick Wood. Rick Wood, a Negro League stadium, is the oldest stadium in the country in Birmingham, Alabama. We'll have a major league game there, Steve, an intimate crowd of about 11 or 12,000 seats. And Willie Mays played there in the Negro Leagues, and it would be great if Willie Mays is, healthy and able to travel to Birmingham, Alabama at 93 years old and be able to be a part of it. It will be a special, special moment. And I love that Major League Baseball is honoring the Negro Leagues with a real game at a Negro League ballpark.
Well, my apologies to Major League Baseball and specifically Commissioner Rob Manfred. They wanted me there. They wanted me to bring the show First Take there. But as you know, I'll be covering the NBA Finals, so it was something that I couldn't commit to. And I really, really wanted to be there on behalf of the sport and former Negro League players and all the stuff that it entails, because I think it would be an historic moment. So I'm happy that you're going to be there. I'm really, really happy about that. Before I let you get on out of here, man, you know, you've got a website that's spotlighting players of color in Major League Baseball. Talk to us about that for a second here. Give us all some insight about that.
MLBbro.com. We've been up and running, Steve, for 4 years. This has been a brainchild of mine. It's twofold. I wanted to make sure that we cover the black players. Who are these guys? Where did they come from? Their love of baseball. Make sure that we give them a shine and a spotlight. Also, we also take a look back. We do a thing called A Bro You Need to Know, where we go back and we do features on past players, because we don't want that to be lost in our culture. Who are these great players? What did they do? Where'd they come from? You know, and stuff like that. We started with 14 people on this website in 2021. We're now, Steve, up to 80 staffers, many young brothers and sisters who love the game. And Steve, it warms my heart every time I get an email from a kid, a young black kid who's in college, who says, "Hey, Rob, can you teach me how to cover baseball?" And they join the website. They do social media videos. They write stories. They go to the ballpark. Wow. So Major League Baseball joined in with us last year and partnered. So some of our content now has appeared on MLB Network, MLB.com, Steve, to give these guys some shine. And the big thing is covering the black players in the major league, but also developing the next generation of black baseball writers, broadcasters, and content creators. And that's the big issue for me, is I want to make sure when there's a baseball job open in St. Louis, that we have a brother or a sister who's interested and love the game, who has an opportunity maybe to get that job.
Rob Parker, before I let you get on out of here, your concern for the number of black players in Major League Baseball. Last time I checked, it was at about 6 or 7%. I imagine that the numbers are going to get better. I love the changes that Rob Manfred has incorporated and implemented, starting with what's going on in the minor league system and some of the things they've done with the pitch count, the raising of the mound, nullifying some of those shifts, those dramatic shift positions and what have you. I love some of the changes that it's made, because I think it's invited more athleticism back to the sport of baseball, which I think is going to be a great, great thing. And as a result, you're going to see black individuals participating in the sport even more. I think it's going to be beneficial. That's my take. What about yours?
Absolutely. And the minor leagues, there are plenty of young black players, Steve, down in the minor league. So we've seen that the shift and people starting getting back into baseball. We lost our way for a while, and kids weren't interested, and the game was too long and too drawn out. And the changes have definitely helped baseball. I mean, I don't know. I've been to games 2 hours and 3 minutes. And sometimes when it's all over, I go, I don't feel like I even went out, like I even did anything. And it moves along and it still feels good. Not like it was bastardized. At first, I was against it. I thought they were trying to make the game for people who didn't like baseball. But I think it's been a good thing by Major League Baseball. And I think it's going to grow the sport. We're seeing let's talk about Major League Baseball real quick. Two of the top 3 players in the game are black. Okay, we know Shohei Ohtani, right? The best player, pitcher, and hitter. Okay, we give Shohei the top spot. We got Mookie Betts as number 2 and Aaron Judge as number 3. So 2 of the top 3 players in the game are black. So let's make sure that we understand that baseball has always been our game, always been a part of our culture and our fabric. And I want black kids to know that, embrace it, and play more than one sport. Stop letting these AAU coaches and people tell you can't do it. Kyler Murray, first-round draft pick in the NFL, first-round draft pick in Major League Baseball. All right? That's the first time it ever happened in the history of sports. And guess what? It happened 4 or 5 years ago, not 100 years ago. It can be done if you apply yourself and give yourself another option other than just one sport.
You're practicing what you preach because just like you don't want players to limit themselves to one sport, particularly if it's not baseball, you playing basketball, football, you definitely want them to try baseball as well. It's a lot of money in that, by the way, too. If you can ball and you last long enough through that minor league system, ain't no question that it could be beneficial for you financially. But I'm bringing that up to say you also are set to launch sports rap radio. I mean, you don't stop. You don't stop. You own a barbershop. You had a hot dog stand. I mean, like every time I turn around, Mr. Entrepreneur, you're doing something. And now here you come, set to launch sports rap radio. I'm talking about that's hip hop intertwined with sports. Explain this, Rob. Explain this.
Steve, this is my latest baby. We launched June 3rd on this coming Monday in Detroit.
Wow.
We will be the first all-black sports talk radio station in the country. And you know this, Steve, you've worked in sports talk radio, and oftentimes, there just aren't enough of us, black people, who are behind the mic telling our story about our athletes. And in Detroit about 4 years ago, and Steve, you used to come to Detroit, fill in for me on my own show with the man Mark Wilson in the day in Detroit. Am I right?
Yeah. Yes, you did. I did it a couple of times.
Absolutely. And I want you to know, 4 years ago, the sports station in Detroit had 0 black hosts, Steve. 0 in a city that's 80% black. I want to change that. So I'm putting together this radio station that we launched. We'll give opportunities to young brothers and sisters who want to have a career in sports talk radio. And my big dream is that we create a network, and then a sports rap radio will be a network, and there'll be a station in Philadelphia and in Baltimore and DC and Houston and New York and all these cities where black people love sports talk, the barbershop talk, that in First Take, that kind of style. On the radio. So we're going to do it here in Detroit, lay down the blueprint for everybody else. And we want everybody else to support us and to join in. But sports rap radio is going to be the next thing. And I've never felt better about a situation or an opportunity, and I'm thrilled about it.
Well, I'm proud of you. I love you. I'm happy for you. I'm happy for the odd couple, you and my brother, Christopher Broussard. Y'all got a great radio show. Keep doing the great work. I've always been here for you. You've certainly always been there for me. You helped get my career started, for crying out loud. Love you, miss you. Looking forward to talking to you and seeing you. But I'm real proud that you're doing what you're doing with the sports rap radio, with the MLBbro.com. And obviously, I felt it was important to have you, of all people, on this particular subject in regards to Major League Baseball and the Negro Leagues finally being recognized in the history books. If anybody was qualified to talk about this, it would be the one and only Rob Parker. Appreciate you big time. I'll talk to you soon, all right?
Hey,
you take
Steve,
care. Love you, man.
Thank you so much. And I love you, man, and I'm proud of you. And I still remember the first time we met in 1992 in this city, in Detroit, at the NABJ convention. And you came over, they brought you over to my table, and you said you wanted to be a sports writer. I'll never forget that day and the heights that you've grown to and what you've done. I'm proud every day. So I'm thrilled for you. Nobody works harder and nobody cares more than you. So I appreciate you.
Thanks a lot, my brother. I'll talk to you soon, all right? I'll give you a call later. You take it easy.
Okay, Steve. Thank you.
All right. The one and only Rob Parker right here on the Stephen A. Smith Show over the digital airwaves of YouTube. Yes, he works for the other network. I don't give a damn. It's one of my best friends on the planet. Okay, just as is the case with Christopher Broussard and all of that stuff. This is my channel. So you guess what? My boy's going to be on from time to time. Just get the hell over it. Okay? I wanted to transition before I go to break about something that's going on. It's called the Next Up Coaching Initiative. Now, what am I talking about, ladies and gentlemen? Before I go to break, I want to give props to Pittsburgh Steelers head coach Mike Tomlin in the NFL, of course, and University of North Carolina Central basketball coach Lavelle Moulton. Both men have partnered up to create the Next Up Coaches Initiative. It's a program designed to help the development and advancement of black coaches in college sports. The program actually starts tomorrow. That's why I brought it up. I met Coach Moulton because CP3, Chris Paul, the point guard himself, he and I collaborated on a docuseries a little over a year ago, Why Not Us? And it was highlighting the basketball program at an HBCU known as North Carolina Central. And through that experience, I got to know Coach Lavelle Moulton, who I happen to believe is an exceptional coach. Personally speaking, even though the coach at North Carolina State and Raleigh did a damn good job of getting them to the Final Four this year, I'm one of those people who always felt Lavelle Moulton from the moment I met him. I said, why isn't this guy coaching in North Carolina State? That's where he should be. I know he ain't going to get to Chapel Hill because they only hire their own. You have to go to that school to be the head coach of that basketball program. And Hubert Davis has obviously done a phenomenal job. But I think that Lavelle Moulton, if you put him in a position where he had an opportunity to be a part of a program that had the resources to really capitalize off of, I think he'd do an even greater job than he's done at North Carolina Central. Nevertheless, his heart is always in the right place. And obviously, we all know what Mike Tomlin brings to the table as an outstanding coach and a champion, as the head coach of the Pittsburgh Steelers, considering his tenure in the league, 17 years. Now that Bill Belichick has stepped away, if I remember correctly, he's got the longest tenure of a head coach in the National Football League. And it's just amazing to me, and I felt it was an opportunity to give props to two guys that never fail to reach back and then extend a helping hand to those less fortunate than themselves, particularly in those aspiring to be in their profession. So that's what this is about, and I just wanted to make sure that everybody knew it, everybody recognized it, everybody was aware of exactly what's transpiring, and to let them know I'm wishing them nothing but the best, and as always, they have my support. So I just wanted to make sure that we did that, all right? Coming up, Draymond Green and yours truly bury the hatchet, per se. More so credit to Draymond Green than myself. I'll tell you why up next, so please stay right there in a minute. Don't go away. You're listening to Stephen A. right here on the Stephen A. Smith Show over the digital airways YouTube. Back with more in a minute.
Oh, my Lord. Have you been watching the NBA playoffs? Because you know I have. And yes, they've been fantastic. Make no mistake about it. But do you know what else makes watching them even more exciting, even more scintillating? Prize Picks, of course. That's what the hell I'm talking about. In case you didn't know this. Prize Picks is a daily fantasy app where you can select two or more of your favorite players and then pick more or less on their projected stats for the game. So with a big event happening each and every single night, Prize Picks is here to help you cash in on all that real-time action. I make my picks every night in less than 60 seconds. Then I sit back, I watch, and I wait for the cash. But Prize Picks doesn't stop at the NBA. Oh, no. You can choose from a myriad of sports, the WNBA, Major League Baseball, National Hockey League, even MMA, and everything in between. And get this, Prize Picks will match your first deposit of up to $100. You heard me right. Go to prizepicks.com and use code SAS. That's my initials, of course, for a first deposit match of up to $100. That's SAS when you go to prizepicks.com and use the promo code. Pick more, pick less. It's really, really that easy.
Stephen A. Smith really pissed me off. And the reason he pissed me off was because he hit me. He's like, yo, it's been hard for a lot of us to talk about you these last few days. And, for me, I'm like, okay, it's been hard for me to watch. But I'm watching it because I want to see everything that everybody has to say. I know you got a job to do. I know you got to do your thing and say what you got to say. But at not one point did you say, well, y'all are saying this person is up and this person need help. Now, I know the person. Say what you want about the basketball player, that's fine. But I know the person. And by the way, it just wasn't him. To sit back and see those that claim to know and appreciate me as a human being just flow with the narrative because it was easy to do, I lost a lot of respect for a lot of people.
Welcome back to the Stephen A. Smith Show right here over the digital airways of YouTube. That was Draymond Green a couple of weeks ago. Draymond Green of the Golden State Warriors on the big podcast hosted by Shaquille O'Neal. During the interview, you heard him express his disappointment that, in terms of his feelings, that I never stood up for him during the times he's gotten himself into trouble on the basketball court, or at least that one particular time. I took exception to that because in my mind, I've been one of the few in the media who's repeatedly come to Draymond's defense when others haven't. Last night, Draymond was on TNT's Inside the NBA, and he took the time to say this. He said, quote, I said something that didn't come out the way I meant it, so I want to apologize to Stephen A. Smith. I said it publicly. I want to apologize publicly. The way I meant for it to come out, it didn't. So I was wrong for that. I do apologize. I'm not the most sentimental figure in the world. I ain't gonna front. but it meant a lot to me that Draymond did that. And I really, really appreciate it. And I'm very grateful to him that he was classy enough to do that, that he's the Draymond Green that I know and love. And, when he did it, it shocked me, it surprised me, but it meant a lot to me because Draymond Green means a lot to me. When you cover sports, everybody tries to act like you're supposed to have this neutral position at all times. And I have a philosophy that I have religiously held on to my entire career. I'm very objective and neutral when it comes to your performance, not to who you are. If I don't know you, I don't know you. But if I know you and you mean something to me, you matter more than somebody that I don't know that doesn't mean as much to me. And when I thought about what Draymond said, the relationship that I have with Draymond Green, who knows when we'll talk again. He's busy, I'm busy, and, he probably still is upset in his own way, even with the apology, and I respect that. And I firmly believe I didn't really do anything wrong because I've always spoken up for him. It's just that after the Rudy Gobert and then the Yusuf Nurkic slap inside of a month, there's but so much defending you can do when you're always coming to the defense of somebody. But as I watched him last night, giving that apology, I didn't feel this need to pat myself on the back like, yeah, I was right. I felt humbled because I started thinking about Allen Iverson. And I remember when I was in Philadelphia writing for the Philadelphia Inquirer, and Allen Iverson had gotten himself into some issues with the 76ers, his second stint with the 76ers. And I had to write a column about Allen Iverson getting himself in trouble. And basically, I didn't give 99% of the details. I basically just said, you can't be out partying and drinking. And Allen Iverson was so furious and was so hurt. We didn't talk for almost 2 years. And by this time, he had left the NBA, but he was living in Atlanta. And I was hearing stuff like, yo, man, it's so bad that if y'all run across one another, it's going to be volatile. And when I heard that, I contacted a couple of my boys. And I told them to meet me in Atlanta because I was flying down. Because the truth of the matter is, and it's something that I never really talk about, I have boys everywhere. So it ain't a city that I have any reason to be hesitant to go to if I need to go there. And when I went there, we finally, Gary Moore made sure Allen Iverson was there. Me and my boys, Mark Stevens and a few others, made sure we were there. And me and Allen sat down. Me and AI sat down. And within 2 minutes, he silenced me. Because I was busy trying to explain, what did I do wrong? And he says, Stephen A., I don't give a shit about none of that. People have said 100 times worse about me than what you wrote. It wasn't what you said. It was that it came from you. And at that moment, I realized more was expected of me because I knew him in ways he didn't allow most people to know him. And when I saw Draymond last night apologize on national television to me, and I thought about what he said and how it had piggybacked off of what Kenny Smith said and what Charles Barkley had said, it was like a flashbulb lit up in my head, where that essentially was what Draymond was saying. I know him in ways most people in the media do not know him. I know what was going on with Draymond Green when he hit Jordan Poole. I know what was going on in Draymond Green's life when the Rudy Gobert situation happened, when the Yusuf Nurkic stuff happened. I know what was going on in Draymond Green's life at some of his high moments and some of his low moments, because he's allowed me to know him in ways that most people do not. And that's what he was talking about. And I didn't see it until he apologized last night. When he was going off on Shaq's podcast about how he was pissed off, my initial reaction was, what the hell are you talking about? Been defending you for years. What the hell are you talking about? When KD sat up there after you slapped Nurkic and he was like, I hope you get the help he needs. I called out KD, who I love, because I was like, what the fuck wrong with you? You don't do that to a black man. You don't do that to him. You know what anger management and, mental stuff and what that connotates and how they'll depict us as black men when you do that. You don't do that, KD. I remember saying that. But that particular day, where Jay Williams and others was going at Draymond, I couldn't defend Draymond because another incident had happened. And I looked at it, him apologizing last night, and I said, that's what he was talking about. It was AI. Just what AI was talking about. And so, lesson learned. I can sit here and look at Draymond Green apologizing to me, but the reality of the situation is, as grateful as I am that he apologized, because I have defended him on an inordinate amount of occasions, the bottom line is I saw a brother that knew that I knew him, that knows that I know him, that was expecting more of me in that moment. I understand. And he had a point, which is why I immediately went on X and I said, not only do I accept your apology, I apologize for anything that I may have done. I'm not perfect, y'all. I just strive to be. And I know that regardless of how some people may feel about me, my heart's in the right place and I try to do the right things. I don't betray people's trust. I don't betray people. I'll tell you where I stand. I ain't moving from that. And if I'm right, I'm not budging. But if I'm wrong, if modifications or alterations need to come along with my take on a particular something, I accept it. I get it. And I just wanted to say that about Draymond. We are pretty close. We have been. And there's things that he's let me know about him and his life that you will never hear. Same as AI, you will never hear because I don't break those trusts. They ain't happening. But I understood where he was coming from. I still contend I've defended and defended and defended him. But when he was talking to Shaq and when he was saying I really pissed him off and I was the name he called by name, there's only one reason my name came up. Because he expected more from me. And he felt I let him down. If I can't own that, then I'm not being the Stephen A. y'all know me to be. So that's the situation. And move on from here. And we all need to do better. We can talk about sports, we can disagree, we can do a lot of different things. But if you can't man up to your mistakes, you ain't a man. And that's why I'm owning up to whatever mistakes I may have made. And I applaud Draymond Green for doing the same. I love that brother. I believe in him. I believe he's going to be a star in this business when his career is over. But he still got some playing days ahead of him and some games to win. I wish him nothing but the best always, no matter how often or how infrequent we talk. I'm always have love for that brother. That's where I'm at with it. Plain and simple. One quick mention before we get on out of here for the day. As many of you know, I'm a cast member of the daytime soap opera General Hospital. Actually, I have a recurring role. My character's name is Brick. I'm a surveillance expert for the mob. Show up a few times a year on the soap opera General Hospital. I've been doing that for the last 7 years. Over the weekend, I was incredibly saddened to learn about the death of castmate Johnny Wachter, who was fatally shot and killed after leaving his job at a downtown LA bar. According to police, the 37-year-old actor was killed when he interrupted 3 men who were attempting to steal his vehicle's catalytic converter. I only met him a couple of times. Very nice guy. His name is Brando. He's on the show. I've spoken to numerous cast members, particularly executive producer Frank Valentini, who was heartbroken. Of course, Maurice Bernard, the star of the show, who plays Sonny Corinthos on the soap opera General Hospital. So much senseless violence is going on in this world. They said that Johnny never really confronted the individuals. He just said, hey. And they turned around and shot him and ran. 37 years of age, whole life ahead of him, snatched because somebody was trying to steal a converter from his car. And that's the world we're living in. It's sad. I'm incredibly sad over it. Again, I didn't know him that well. I'm sad for the people on General Hospital who did know him well, who are heartbroken and heart-stricken over his murder. But our hearts should go out, all of our hearts should go out to his family members and everybody, and to this loss of life, this senseless loss of life. I remember when that young kid that used to be on the Steve Harvey show, Romeo, played Romeo. I remember when he was killed and Steve Harvey stormed off the air talking about the senseless violence that exists. It's been going on for a long time, but it seems to be going on in this day and age more than ever before. Senseless violence, mayhem. People's definition of happiness seems to be inflicting pain and misery upon other people. And until we come together and figure out a way to eradicate these kind of people from our society, it's only going to get worse. I mean, at some point in time, it does get to a point where you got to be the bully on the block. You see people going to jail and getting out the same day. That ain't going to suffice. You see folks committing crimes and with operating with impunity. That's going to have to change. And if you look and you monitor what's going on in this election cycle, you see people speaking about that. You see fears elevating. You see a lot of stuff going on. And you find yourself wondering whether or not that's going to show up at the polls as well. Whatever the case may be, something has to be done. Something has to be done. Because the things that we're seeing are so heinous, so disgusting, so ridiculous, it's hard to justify. It truly, truly is. My condolences to the Wachter family, to the General Hospital family, to anybody who knew him, loved him, cared for him. Totally, totally senseless. Getting off from work, going to your car. Did it ever occur to you, if you're the robber, if you're the villain out there, did it ever occur to you all you had to do was point the gun and keep it moving? You didn't have to murder him. My condolences. Yet again, over senselessness. That's it for today's show, ladies and gentlemen. I normally take your tweets, but to be quite honest with you, after that, I'm not even in the mood to. Hopefully, I'll be back in a better mood in the next couple of days, more festive mood, and we can revisit our normally scheduled actions on this show. Until then, I'm going to get on out of here, y'all. Peace and love. God bless. Hold on to your loved ones. In this day and age, you never know how long that's going to be for, unfortunately. Until next time, peace and love.